Okay. Has this ever happened to you? You see an HP Mini and you say, I gotta get it. And you buy it, it gets delivered, and you're like, okay, now what? I have this all the time. A lot of times I'm buying stuff for the channel, other times I'm buying it more for myself. But in either case, a lot of times I'm going, okay, what am I going to do with this thing? And whether it's your first HP, your second, your 15th, you're not going to know what to do with, your this HP Mini that you've just purchased. So I thought we kind of go over some things to think about, possible ideas, maybe for that project. Sometimes I'm just bored and I'm looking through my stack of stuff and going, I need a project. I need something that I can do with this. So let's talk about some of these. So one of the factors that I look at right away is, okay, is this a unit that I spent a lot on, a little on? And which means if I spend a lot on it, I probably want to put it into production to do something with it fairly quickly. Versus something that's cheap, maybe I'm just going to add it to the stack, and maybe this is one that I'm not going to worry about if something happens to it in my tinkering. So that's one factor. The other factor is, what do I need to add to it? Do I need to buy some more SSDs? Do I need to buy some special adapters? Do I need to buy that ever expensive RAM that keeps going up? Do I need to get one of these monstrosity power supplies for it? So a lot of it comes down to, do I have the stuff I need at my disposal, or am I going to have to wait longer for more stuff? I'll also think about things like, okay, what kind of CPU is in this thing? Or maybe I need to get a new CPU, but is this a high power one that can handle lots of multi-threading, do VMs on, or is this very low power, very inexpensive CPU that doesn't need a lot of tax on the machine in order to get the particular process done that I want to use it for? Do I have the skills to do the thing that I want to do? Do I feel comfortable playing with the bias? Do I feel comfortable ripping out the insides and putting in adapters and stringing things along? Is that something that I'm comfortable with? I know myself, the one thing that I've never really played with, and the few times I did, did not go well, is soldering. I see these YouTubers, they're just doing it without much effort. They've got the right tools. That's something that I stay away from. Is this going to be a temporary thing or a permanent thing? Are you going to invest all this time just to kind of do a what if? Sometimes they'll do that, like, hey, will this particular configuration work in this machine? Like I did with putting the i7 9700K inside of a G5. Yeah, it kind of worked, but I still have to deal with the thermals and so forth. So it's something that I'm playing with versus something that I'm going to permanently keep. One thing that is very important is this thing that I'm going to try impact other people? And what I mean by that is, hey, gee, I got this great idea. I'm going to install OpenSense and I'm going to route all my network traffic through it. And I'm just going to totally redo my network. That's great, except for those people that are like, wait a minute, I can't watch my shows now. I can't do my homework. I can't upload. I can't, look up this recipe. So those kinds of things are going to affect other people. If they're not going to affect other people, you're probably not going to be under the pressure to get the thing done. Now, is this thing that you want to do a nice to have or a gotta have? Would it be nice to have a second NAS, or is it something I gotta have a second NAS because I need it to back up? Would it be nice to have a media player, or is it, yeah, I really need it because there's some videos that only appear as a digital thing and I need to be able to play it, et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of have to play with that too, is the need, gotta. And is this a solution in search of a problem? Are you going, wow, this is great. There's this new open source software that does blah, 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 and I want to install it and get it all configured, and I'm going to add this memory and this. But you're like, okay, what is it solving? What is it helping? Well, it's going to, it's just cool. I just want to do it. Those kinds of things are kind of tough. I mean, it's nice to sort of anticipate maybe future needs, but it's also sometimes a little nicer when you actually can show success because it's actually solving a problem. I would say also other factors I take into account is, do I have the space? Am I going to be tinkering on this thing? And is it going to take a while? And, is it okay for me to have it spread out on the dining room table? Does it have to happen right away? Or can I take my time? What is the time constraint on getting it done? Because all of that is going to play in to the kinds of projects that you might want to take on. Okay, so here are some ideas of things that you can actually do with that HP Mini. And I kind of broke them into categories. We'll go through these. The first one is operating systems. Now, very obvious that most of these come with a Windows license. A lot of them come with a Pro license, which is even better. It gives you more features. Not all of them, of course, are natively supported by Windows 11. G3s and earlier are not, but if you watch my videos, you'll see how you can go through, set some registry settings, and it will install without a problem. You could install Windows 10, and you could also get another year of support of Windows 10, but eventually it's going to catch up with you and you're not going to get updates for Windows 10. So you could jump right into Windows 11. Maybe you could use this secondary or new Windows 11 unit for something that you could put in, I don't know, your kitchen, maybe a common area. Maybe you don't want to go Windows. Maybe you don't want to have to worry about 11 versus 10. You just want to install a Linux desktop. And that does come with some open source. There's open Office that you could install. Oftentimes with older hardware that where maybe you can't afford to put as much in terms of the CPU or the RAM, the Linux is going to work great. We've also highlighted in previous videos Chrome OS Flex, a operating system that is made to be fairly bulletproof and very simple. It can also still talk to your various, like your Google Drive, go to your OneDrive, and it can also still run applications like Office 365. Several folks have used these units as kind of like a media machine for their TV. You can get a USB DVD drive, hook that up to the unit. You probably would want to use still like Windows 10 or 11 because it's got the right licensing so that it can actually play DVDs. A lot of the other folks like to use it as a gaming emulator. They install this Batacera. It allows you to run games that were written for consoles from way back when in the 90s. The next category, I kind of lumped them all together, and it mainly deals with installing what's known as a hypervisor. Proxmox is a hypervisor. There's also a free version of VMware ESXi that you can install. In essence, it's the software that goes onto your HP, and then within it, you can create virtual machines or VMs. So these VMs you could use to test various Linux distributions. Maybe you always wanted to install a Linux server. Maybe you heard about some nifty new Linux distribution that, I don't know, that looks a lot like the Mac or looks a lot like Windows, whatever it might be. Nice thing is you can install it, play with it, and then just delete it. The other nice thing is that you could also install Windows as a virtual machine. And what this might be handy for is, let's say you find something out in the wild, you heard it's open source, or maybe you download it from a sketchy website. You're not sure, hey, I don't want to infect my own, normal Windows. You could run it under this VM. You could set it up so that VM can't talk to the outside world. no internet, anything. You're just going to install it, see how it is. If it starts doing weird things, you just delete it. The other cool thing with having a virtual machine is that you can set what are known as snapshots. You can basically say, okay, take a snapshot of this virtual machine. I'm going to install some software, play with it. I like it, don't like it, whatever it is, I'm done playing with it. I just roll back to that snapshot. It's like it was never installed. What other folks like to do is they'll install and create maybe like a Plex or Jellyfin server. I use a Jellyfin server myself. I like to throw up all the family photos up onto the Jellyfin. That way on my big TV, I can actually show pictures from the last get-together or whatever it might be. And it's just a little easier, especially if you got everybody that wants to look at it. A lot easier than looking at some tiny screen on your phone. Next, we have NAS, Network Attached Storage, or File Server. In essence, it's just a place that you can put all of your documents, and multiple machines can get to it. And the nice thing with these units, you can set up a NAS, you can, install TrueNAS, Unraid, Open Media Vault. There's lots of different flavors out there. I've got some videos on doing TrueNAS. I've done videos that do it both with the 2.5-inch and 3.5-inch drives. When you set up these NASs is that if you have multiple drives, you're going to have redundancy, so that way if a drive goes bad, you don't have to worry about it. It'll keep chugging along. Some of these NASs you can set up where they'll even then take your local files and upload them to your Google Drive, your OneDrive, so that way then you have yet another way that your files are being backed up. And then finally, we have Firewall. So this is a way in which you can take one of the units. You're going to have to add a second network port to it because you need one that is going to service the incoming from, let's say, your cable modem, fiber modem. It's going to go into one of the network ports, and then the other network port is going to connect to the rest of your network. Now, this firewall is going to take care of connecting to and talking with your internet provider, but it's also going to take care of things like DHCP, DNS, all those sorts of things that more maybe a traditional router would. But you can then also set up rules that say, hey, all of my smart devices, I want them to be on a certain part of the network, and I don't want it talking to my NAS. I don't want it talking to anything else, only to the internet. So that's where this firewall comes into play, where you can make those particular rules. Obviously, these ideas are not exhaustive. There's lots of other kinds of things you could do with it. As example, let's say with the Proxmox. Not only could you install Proxmox, but you could also create what's known as a cluster. And you could do a cluster with high availability. What that means is that, let's say you have 3 G3s. And you've got Proxmox and they're in a cluster and you got to turn one of them off, or one of them power supply goes out on it. Something corrupts on it. You can set it up so that your application that's running on the one that goes bad will instantly start running on one of the other ones in the cluster. You could, of course, set up something that records the video from your cameras. So let me know how you've used your particular units in maybe some very interesting ways, and so that way kind of let the rest of the community know.